The age-old questions. Paper or plastic? Toilet paper, over or under? And is it a doll or an action figure? Hello, Champagne Dreamers. Welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, I don't know how you found me, but hit that subscribe button. Stick around. My name is Janessa, and I am North Dakota's trash queen of glam, geek, and gore. And today we are going to be geeking out over She-Ra. We are going to be giving you part one of my She-Ra collection. Now, anybody who is coming over here from my Golden Girl videos, my She-Ra collection is much less impressive than my Golden Girl collection. We are splitting it into two parts, but it's much less vibrant. It's much smaller than my Golden Girl collection, but I've still got some fun stuff. So in part one, we are going to be looking at the dolls, the action figures, whatever you want to call them, and we are going to get started with that right now. Yes, so this is one of those conversations that people have. Things like She-Ra and Golden Girl. Are they dolls? Are they action figures? And you know what? There's never been a really clear sort of determination on that. I feel like action figures are kind of a different thing. Angie feels like they are dolls. We've talked about this. I'm not very invested, so we haven't had a full-on throwdown about it. But I do think there's a difference, and I think that sort of confusion also was there in the 80s, and I think that's part of why Golden Girl had a hard time. It's because people were like, what is this? Is this an action figure? Is it a doll? They didn't really know. They wanted to make fashions, but then they made lesbian camping gear, so She-Ra played more by the rules. We're going to see that the She-Ra figures are much girlier, much more feminine, and we're going to take a look at the dolls. Now, I have a fair number in my collection. I have 14 loose dolls that we're going to take a look at. Now, some have some of the accessories, some have none of the accessories. They all came with little snap-on fashions. That was one of the things we talked about with Golden Girl, is that they tried to create full outfits, whereas She-Ra, with the accessories that came in the package and with the extra fashion packs, they were very much more modular, little snap-on pieces. A cape, a belt, maybe leg covers, things like that. They weren't a whole garment. It was little pieces. So we're going to take a look at that. For the loose dolls, some of those I've gotten in a lot of loose dolls. Sometimes if I was buying a carrying case, a lot of times Golden Girl and She-Ra collections would get mixed together. So I would be buying Golden Girl things and I would get She-Ra things in place. So we're going to take a look at the loose dolls and talk about the accessories. And then we're going to go ahead and look at the 9 figures that I have that are still in the package. I have a pretty good representation from waves 1, 2, and 3. We are going to take a look at them. I'm very excited. Let's start with the loose dolls. And we're going to start from least accessories to most accessories. So some of these were ones that maybe were in the package, but the package was badly damaged. So I went ahead and just took them out of the package. So those I have all the accessories. Some of them were ones that came with accessories. And so we'll see as we go through. So first we have an original She-Ra, and she's got no accessories. She's got nothing. Her bottom piece down here has a little bit of discoloration, but otherwise the paint is generally looking good. Now, Angie did comb out her hair. Her hair was a little bit of a struggle when she showed up, but her jewel is intact. Her hair is overall looking pretty good. She doesn't have a lot of discoloration, so this is one that would be great if I was hunting around and trying to find some of the loose accessories. We could dress her up, or we might put her into one of the fashions. And then we have an original She-Ra with a fuck-ass bob. Someone took a scissor to this lovely lady. Angie did her best. We've got a little Carol Channing action going on. Now, her bottom has less discoloration. She still has her jewel. The paint, again, overall looking pretty good. There's not any real discoloration. The trouble is just that hair, and we did what we could, but she's a little bit She's got that like sassy transsexual bob. So she's one of a kind.
Boy, can't you talk to me? It's what I want the most in my life.
Next, we have Flutterina. So this Flutterina, also no accessories. There's no wings that she has. It's just her and this kind of purple hair. The hair looks like maybe it's faded a little bit. I think it might have been, it was always like a pastel purple, but this looks like maybe she's had a little bit of fading. She's losing a little bit of paint along the bust, but she's in generally pretty good condition. Now, Flutterina was in Wave 2. Those are a little bit harder to find. Wave 3 is the hardest to find. Those are generally the most expensive. We'll talk a little bit more as we go through, but this was Wave 2. Wave 2 is where we got a lot of really fun, interesting new characters. And so Flutterina's one. She usually has these big, like, orange and purple with white border wings. And so she's got a big backpack. That was one of her accessories. And then, of course, almost all of them had a little belt to kind of disguise the difference in the plastic here. And then the bust, because it was molded in the skin color plastic, was always painted. So to help disguise the differentiation between the bottom and not just look like underwear, they would all come with a little snap-on fabric belt.
They say you're out of my league, but I don't give a damn. No.
Here we have Peekaboo, also from Wave 2. She's another one of those expansion characters. She had a backpack that we're going to see a little bit later, spoiler alert, where it had kind of a fanned out peacock tail, and you could like put it together or you could fan it out. That was kind of her action that she had. She's got a couple little discolorations, but overall the paint is looking pretty good. She's got like a little mark on her leg that I might try to clean up a little bit later, but in general she's looking pretty good. Angie fixed up her hair and her hair is looking nice and soft. So this is the first of the loose Peekaboos.
I know you want it. You want to take a leap and jump in.
Now, when I was a kid, I had 2 She-Ra action figures, and I had one of the little animals. I didn't even necessarily call that an action figure, but I had the cowl, which was the little owl with the big, like, Dumbo ears, and he had a feature on his stomach where you could open it up and it would answer yes or no questions. It was just this little thing that kind of went around on a cycle, but it either showed red for no, green for yes, or yellow for maybe. But I did have 2 of the female action figures, and the first one that I had was Mermista. So here is Mermista. Angie combed out her hair, and she did try to put it back into an approximation of her hairstyle. When this came, her hair was on the struggle bus, but Angie did a good job of trying to recreate the kind of double braids that she had. And this one, she didn't come with a tail. Now, she does have a little action in her chest. The original doll came with a seashell that you could fill up with water, plug it into her back, and she could shoot water through her necklace. She also had, instead of a belt, she had a pull-on mermaid tail. So you could actually have her walking on land, or she could transform into a mermaid.
You get me spinning, wouldn't it be awesome if you just kissed me slowly and had me.
Now, in Wave 2 and Wave 3, in addition to new characters, we also had to get new versions of our main characters, She-Ra and the enemy Catra. So this one is actually the Wave 2 Catra, and it's Scratchin' Sounds Catra. So this is Catra, where now she's got kind of this pink and silver look. We're going to see an original Catra in a little bit, but this one is pink and silver. She's got silver gloves, and she's got this beautiful black hair. She's got this long, fuzzy tail, and then Scratchin' Sound. So this was loose. You can see it was really, really long. I had it tucked into her hand. But her Scratchin' Sounds, let me move her hair out of the way. She has a little lever on the back, and what you do is you would pull it down, up and down, and it would, I don't know if you'll even be able to hear it, but basically it like clicks. It's barely a little click, but that was her Scratchin' Sounds. I don't know if it was better when this is new. I mean, obviously this toy is about 40 years old. 2025 was the 40th anniversary of She-Ra, so it may have been that the Scratchin' Sounds have gotten less impressive over the years, and I'll maybe try to get a close-up recording of it so that you can really sort of hear what it sounds like, but it's kind of an interesting gimmick, but yeah, not super impressive. Welcome, Perfuma! So Perfuma is another one of the Wave 2 expansion characters. Now her gimmick is she had a little backpack that had a rose at the top, and you could push a lever and the rose would bloom. Now, if you saw my earlier video where I talked about my She-Ra collection from the Motu Classics line, if you missed it, I'll link it here for your convenience. But what I thought was interesting about that line is that that line was always trying to sort of pay homage to both the cartoon versions that were in the She-Ra cartoon and also the toy line. And so what they did is they took that backpack where she had the blooming flower, that was not cartoon accurate at all, and they turned it into like a flower gun. So she had like a little plant gun that had a rose that could shoot out of it. I thought that was kind of cool that they did that. So this is her toy design. The She-Ra toys did not really follow the designs in the cartoon, and that's why if you look at the Motu Classics line and look at how those are designed to be much more animation accurate, whereas the original toy line took inspiration from the cartoon, but were not trying to recreate it perfectly. So the first 7 didn't have any accessories. Now we're getting into some dolls that have a few accessories, maybe 1 or 2, and some are almost complete. The first one, are you ready for a curly girl? We have Sweet Bee, and with Sweet Bee, I have her little antenna headband. So I do have an accessory for her. Actually, I think when I got this, it was just the doll, and I think that this was actually in a Golden Girl carrying case that I bought. For some reason, in that Golden Girl carrying case, in addition to a couple of Golden Girl dolls, there was also this Sweet Bee antenna and 2 versions of the Starburst She-Ra cape. One that's in okay condition and one that's in pretty terrible condition. And so this is Sweet Bee with her antenna. We reunited them. Angie tried to comb out her hair a little bit. She's got this curly hair. And so it's a little bit tougher to find her hair in good condition. So Angie worked to kind of make that a little bit better so that she wasn't quite so straggly. And then, of course, we have the Double Agent Double Trouble, or if you were watching the Motu Classics video, Double Mischief. So I've asked a couple people, and I think somebody kind of gave me an explanation, and I've already forgotten it. There was some copyright issue for why they couldn't call her Double Trouble when they recreated her in the Classics line. I don't know what it was. I think some of it has to do with the fact that this is the only doll from the original She-Ra line that never showed up in the cartoon. So I think there was something different about how she was licensed, how she was, part of that line. Because she never appeared in the cartoon, people who are licensing for that cartoon, the licensing is different for her. And so this is a very different style of doll. Now her accessory, she has her little fabric belt. This is very typical. They would have a little metallic piece, and then they would often have this little gathered little bit of tulle that would be kind of underneath it. Now she has this big helmet and this weird ponytail, and her gimmick was also that her face would change. So you'll notice she's kind of got a big old face here in her helmet, but you could turn this dial on her back and her face would change. Oops, I should stop actually on her face. So there is her kind of evil incarnation, because she was a double agent. She would spy on the Horde for She-Ra and report back. So when she was being part of the Horde, she would look kind of evil, and then you could twist this around and she would go back and report to She-Ra and her friends and tell them what the Horde was up to, what Catra was getting up to. So this is a fun one. Now her waist is broken, so she just kind of spins around. So she's having some trouble. I don't know if there's an easy way to fix that. I may try to look that up. I have looked up some tutorials on how to fix the Golden Girl figures, but I haven't looked up the She-Ra ones, but I may try to fix her at some point because she does just sort of spin around. So that's awkward. But that's Double Trouble. Double Trouble is the one I wanted so much, but I never found her in stores. Because like I said, I did end up with 2 She-Ra figures, and so I just never could find Double Trouble, or at least never found her when I had the money and could buy her. And so I never ended up with this one. Obviously she's green. I loved that, and so I thought that was fun. And I just liked the little spinning face thing. I thought that was cool.
face, I'm making you smile. I know I am what you need, and boy, you're just my type.
So I have 3 that I had purchased that were like in the package, although some of them the packaging was really damaged. In the case of one of them, it was damaged enough that the doll was basically out, but the package was still together, so they just shoved it back in. So any of those, if I remove them, I did keep the cardboard back, and the first one is Catra. So this is Catra from the first wave, and here you can see I've kept it. I've kept the packaging. Now here you can kind of see this has really gone yellow. This was so like deep, almost like beer bottle color. I mean, this one I was like, it's not in great shape, and it's so dark that I'm just gonna go ahead and open this. And so therefore we have a Catra that is pretty much complete. So she's got her little cat face mask, she's got her shield, she has her skirt. In this case, instead of like a tulle, it's got a fur, and she does have a tail, but this one you can see is much thicker and also shorter. So underneath her hair you can see she's got this cute little tail, and then she's got, now I don't know if she had a sword. I opened her up and put her into the storage box, so I would have thought if she had a sword it would be with her. So maybe she doesn't. I need to double check that, because if she did, I've lost the sword. It's like the 80s all over again, where I'm just losing toys and all the accessories. But I have her shield, I have her headpiece, and so I don't think she had a sword.
I know you want it. You wanna take a leap and jump in. We're gonna fall in love.
Another one that was in a banged up package that I went ahead and opened. This is also a Wave 1 figure. This is Castaspella. And so I kept her packaging. Again, another one that was very, very yellow. This is very amber colored. And so I was like, you know what? I like Castaspella. She's one of my favorite characters. And so I was like, I want to take her out and be able to see her in my loose collection. So here's Castaspella, very different from her cartoon. Her cartoon is more striking. It's more primary colors. It's yellow mixed with blue. So for her figure, they decided to go just straight yellow. And so she's got the little fabric belt. She's got a shoulder piece. This was very common. A lot of the dolls, even if you find them with their belt, finding them with their shoulder piece or their cape is much rarer, it seems to me. And then she had this back piece that was her magic, that had this like holographic pattern on it. And you could spin it around, and that's how she cast spells. So she was one of my favorites. So since her box was not in very good condition, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take her out and have her in my loose collection. Frosta is a figure that was out of the package but was in really good condition and had all of her pieces, was still complete, had her like shoulder cape piece, had her little fabric skirt, and she had her staff. So she didn't have a sword or a shield. She had this little staff, and you could blow across the top. And it would spin that around. That was creating her cold magic. And I don't know, we'll have to see when I'm editing if you can actually hear it very well. But it also creates a little bit of like a wind whistle. So Frosta was the queen of the ice. And so she had fabulous ice powers. I thought that was really fun. She was another one that I thought was really cool. In my brain, even if I wasn't processing it that way, if there was like a little lesbian couple that I would put together, it would be Castaspella and Frosta. And they would have a little green baby because yellow and blue makes green. Now we have a Peekaboo. This I found on eBay, and I think she was listed as complete. Now somewhere I think I have a little baggie, because I think all of the She-Ra toys came with little combs. Now she came with a little comb as well, and I had it in the bag because she came together. So I think if there are any accessories missing from these, there's probably a little bag somewhere I put all of their combs. And if I took them out of the package, I also have the comic books. Now we're going to look a little bit closer at the comic books in part 2, because I have some that I got. I think this auction for this Peekaboo just came with a bunch of extra comic books and comic book pages. And so we'll take a look at those later. I need to put those together. But she does have her little belt, and so you can see that's her belt. This is her little comb. She's got her shield. Just hold it where they can see it. She's got her shield, and then she has her backpack that she can mesmerize people with her peacock action. The hair kind of gets in the way, but it's still a fun little gimmicky thing. I think it's cute. She's a fun figure. Again, this was from Wave 2 where they had some really interesting, playful characters that they added into the mix. I like Peekaboo. I think she's fun. And if you haven't watched the new She-Ra cartoon, which what are you doing with your life? If you need to be convinced, I've got a whole video here where I tell you about how it's one of the best things that I've watched in the last few years. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I've watched through it like 3 or 4 times. Get on it. But I loved what they did with Peekaboo and Double Trouble. I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but there's a little bit of a connection between those two. Double Trouble was kind of a fun, for those of you who love things that have gone woke, Double Trouble, since they were the double agent, in the cartoon, there's sort of this like non-binary shapeshifter. I love it. And Peekaboo also came with a comic book that was weirdly about Mermista. It's A Fishy Business is the name of the comic book, and so this is the one that came with the Peekaboo. Put that little comb.
Those are ridiculously small. Like,
The
give
comb.
a kid, yeah.
Yeah, all
You
of
need
your
a
little
little
accessories.
brush. You need a little brush for it. Not this tiny little comb. I mean, I'd make do if that's all I had. But come on. Come on.
Yeah, look at that tiny little comb. Do you remember the lesbian battle axe combs that Golden Girl came with? And then She-Ra, it was this. This. And the last figure that I took out of the package, because the package was all banged up, is actually a She-Ra. Now, this one was banged up enough that the She-Ra doll was actually out of the package. And so I did go ahead and take off the plastic piece that was on here, and I have the doll, but there's something you're going to notice. She has all of her accessories. She has her little gold shield, she has her sword, she has her headpiece, and she has her cape. She had a lot of accessories. She-Ra was the main character, but her stone was not red. So this doll, at some point after it had come out of the packaging with the previous owner, the stone went missing. And the only gemstone that I had that was even close to that size at the time was a red one. So at some point I may kind of pry this out and put like a regular crystal stone or an AB stone so that it matches. But at the time, I just didn't like looking at it with that weird, because I think some of the mirror had like stuck in there, so it looked kind of messy. And so I just wanted something in there, so I put this red stone. But otherwise she's all complete, but that is not her original stone color. All right, that is it for the loose dolls. Now we are going to start looking at the dolls that are still in the package. All right, for the 9 figures that are still in the package, we are going to go wave by wave because there were 3 main waves of figures released for She-Ra. And so now we're going to talk about wave 1. These were the OG, these were the original characters. And I have that She-Ra that I took out of the package, but I don't have a She-Ra in the package currently. The characters that I do have from Wave 1 are Angela. So she's sort of angel themed. You can see she's got big wings, and there's a little lever on there where you can push it down and her wings will flap. Very, very flowy. She's got this belt with these long pieces that almost look like they're supposed to cover up her legs like pants. She's very pink, very different from the cartoon version. If you look at my Motu Classics video, you'll see that the cartoon version had a little bit of butchness to her. She had a different sort of haircut. She had pink and blue together. So they made her very, very pink, very girly.
Everybody else got it going on. You make me, oh, hey, lights go out when I see you moving. Oh, hey, light me up. I love when you go like that.
Now her daughter was Princess Glimmer. So this is Glimmer. She's very similar, but she's got a little bit more of a purple tone instead of a pink tone. They gave her some silver accents, but again, very different, much more girly than the cartoon version. So they really did pretty these characters up and make them very frilly, very foo-foo. She's got this beautiful rose staff that I think is really cool. I loved what they did with Glimmer in the new She-Ra show. I thought she was so interesting and so unique the way that they portrayed her. I thought that was a lot of fun. Next, we do have a Frosta still in the package. Now, a lot of these, like I said, have yellowed really, really deeply. This one is one of the worst that I have. But it was still nice enough that I was like, we're going to keep her. I've got a pretty much complete Frosta, and so we'll keep her in the package, even though she's a little bit yellow. I do like this. And the packaging is in generally pretty good shape. So we have this Frosta. She's really gorgeous. I love all the icy details. And the final Wave 1 figure that we have is Double Trouble. I love Double Trouble, and so you know what? I had to go ahead and get her when I saw her in the package. My Double Trouble is cute. She's not in terrible shape, but that waist is broken. The hair had to be combed out. She's in a little bit of a rough shape. She's not too bad, but I was like, you know what? If I can get her in the package, I found a fairly good deal. So we do have Double Trouble as well.
You and me, just a walk in the park where the world fades, and we're leaving our marks. They try to hold me down, tear me apart, but with you, baby, nothing seems so hard. They said I'd never make it, that I lost my spark, but you're the small compass guiding me through the dark.
Now we are moving on to Wave 2. And like I said, Wave 2 is where they really expanded the number of characters. They added some interesting, very fun themed characters. I do have some duplicates of ones that I have loose figures for as well, but let's get into Wave 2, starting with Perfuma. And here you can see how she's got those kind of twisted pigtails that Angie tried to recreate when she combed out her hair. She's got this very frilly belt, and there is her flower backpack. So if you push a lever up, her flower will bloom, and that was kind of her little power action. She's got a little comb and a little shield down here. So most of the Wave 2, I don't think any of them had swords. I think they all had some sort of action. It was usually a backpack like Perfuma's flower. And now this is 40 years old, and somebody at some point was trying to smell it and like pulled the packaging to the side. I've tried to lean over. It doesn't really smell like anything anymore. So her perfume has evaporated years ago. But Perfuma was a stinky gal when she first came out.
Stumble and trip, yeah, I made a mess, but with you every day's like this. Every step we take, we're turning the page. With you, I'm out of my cage, feeling all the rage. Men used to talk, but now they stay quiet. 'Cause with you, I don't need to start a riot.
Another duplicate, and you'll see how the accessories really do sometimes make the doll. Sweet Bee, and look at how cute. I mean, it really comes together with this skirt. And the wings are cute too. They're just kind of that kind of corally peach color, and they've got a little bit of a black edge on them. But adding that skirt and that neck piece really brings this doll together. Sweet Bee is so cute. I think she's adorable. Now, Sweet Bee, if you watched my She-Ra video, is one of 2 princesses that did not show up in the new She-Ra show. They were referenced, but they never showed up for real. It was Sweet Bee and Flutterina. So if you want to find out more about that and what the references were, then definitely check out my She-Ra video.
You inspire me to dream, reach for the sky. No, my head's not asking why. In a world so cold, you light up the spark. With you, baby, it's just a walk in the park. Just a walk in the park. Just a walk in the park
Now, I mentioned that as a kid, I had 2 of the female figures from the She-Ra line. The first one is Mermista, and we saw the loose one. Now you can see the accessories that she's supposed to have. There's her kind of twisted pigtail hair again. There is that seashell backpack that you would fill with water and put into her back, and she could shoot water out of her necklace. She had a little shield and a little comb and a comic book. And so this is Mermista, and this is her beautiful iridescent tail. Now, the trouble with this, and why it's sometimes hard to find her with her tail, is, let me tell you, I absolutely played with that toy in the bathtub. And this kind of fabric did not age well, and water certainly sped up the degradation process. So that tail, especially around the feet, where her feet would kind of press against it, the shimmery stuff started to wear off pretty quickly. If these toys are opened and they were actually played with, it's really hard to find this tail in good condition because this kind of fabric tends to degrade anyway, and when you exposed it to water, game over. It just sped up the process. And the other toy from Wave 2 that I had, the one that I had as a kid, and probably my favorite, again, one of my favorite characters. I just think her design is so cool, and I think that she's one of the best characters in the Revival series. I love what they did with Entrapta. I loved Entrapta. She had that, like, metallic, I forget what they call that process, the, like, metallic bonding to the plastic. Her bodice and her legs are all that beautiful silvery gold. She had the frou-frou belt with the 2 colors. She had the gold around her shoulders. And then she had those 2 long braids because that was her gimmick, is that she would capture people in her hair. Well, like most people in the 80s, whenever you had dolls with fancy hair like this, it never stayed that way for long. At some point, you either accidentally pulled off the little rubber band at the end, or you're like, I could do better than that. And of course you couldn't. But eventually it came off and she just had loose, beautiful hair. But I loved her when she was new and she had that beautiful twisted hair. It looks so cool. This is such a cool design. I really loved it. Wave 2, they did some fantastic things.
Used to talk, but now they stay quiet. 'Cause with you, I don't need to start a riot. You inspire me to dream, reach for the sky. Don't believe it's no more asking why. In a way so cold, you light up the spark. With you, baby, it's just a walking apart. You inspire me to dream, reach for.
All right, now we get to Wave 3. Wave 3 are generally the hardest to find. There was a much shorter production run, and actually this one that we show on the back, it actually shows the bubble carriage, which was never actually produced, and there was going to be a character that was introduced with that. I believe her name was Jaye, and the bubble carriage never actually got into production, and so these toys that did get produced are much harder to find. This one was very expensive. If you want to know more about Jaye, I'm going to link a video from Gady's Toys. He has a fabulous series called MIA 80s Ladies, where he talks about female action figures that either were never produced or maybe were planned and produced, or they were planned and the series got canceled before they could be produced. And he did an episode on the bubble carriage and Jaye. This doll was my absolute must-find holy grail. Most of the time when I would see this in the package in good condition, I was seeing like $1,200, $1,500, $1,800. So I didn't pay near that much. I'm not going to say in the video how much I paid. It was more expensive than it should have been. But I had a little inheritance, I had a little dead dad money, and so I decided to treat myself to Natasha. Natasha is the only black character that was produced in the line. You know, in the 80s, We were all about token representation, so there would be like one character of color, and it eventually came to She-Ra in wave 3. We had Natasha. But also, I just love her design. Similar to Entrapta, where they had the hair, and it was very interesting the way that they did the hair. She's got this fun, like, headpiece, but then she's got this cape that is also a net. That was her thing, Natasha. And so she's a really fun blue and white and silver. And on the back, it kind of shows you her cape all sort of splayed out. And so you could use that to capture other dolls. You could use that to capture other characters, and it shows it on here. And again, we have the bubble carriage down here at the bottom. We'll try to do a close-up on that. And the one that, as far as I can tell, now all of these, they had Shower Power Catra, Bubble Power She-Ra, and Bubble Power She-Ra's accessories. Again, watch Gady's Toys video, because what she came with, those accessories look like they were actually planned for Joya, but they were going to be in blue plastic, and then they just changed it to pink and gave it to She-Ra. These two are very hard to find. Natasha, I think it kind of comes and goes. I feel like I see Natasha more often than I see any of the other three, but the one that seems to be the most holy grail, the most expensive when she pops up, even when she's loose, even if she doesn't have accessories, she'll command hundreds of dollars, is Spinnerella. The only Spinnerella I have is in the Motu Classics line. She's hard to find, like I said, even loose, even with no accessories. And to find her in the box, it's going to run you $2,000 or more. Any listings that I have seen, the rare few times that I've seen it, it doesn't come up often. I've more often seen her loose, and usually maybe with the skirt, often not the little wristlets that have the ribbons, but she may or may not have a ribbon skirt, but even loose, I will see $600, $700, $800 on that. So Spinnerella will probably never make it into my collection. That's why I'm glad I have all of those Motu Classics, because then at least I have some version of Spinnerella. But Natasha can run, I've seen her run $1,200, $1,500, $1,800. So when I saw one that was only 3 digits, I had to go for it. So we did pick up Natasha. She is the crown jewel in my She-Ra figure collection. All right, that is all for part 1. Now in part 2, we're going to get into some really fun things, starting with the fashions. I have the full range of Wave 1 fashions. I don't have any of the Wave 2 fashions. They are so expensive. And I actually have a couple of duplicates. So in that video, we are going to unbox a couple of the fashions and put them onto some of my loose dolls. So I'm very excited. Maybe that She-Ra with the fuck-ass bob is going to get a makeover and have a new lease on life. I'm very excited. So we're going to do the fashions. And I don't have any of the horses. I was never really a horse girl, but I do have 3 of the animals that were also vehicles / carrying cases, like Sea Harp. So we are going to talk about Sea Harp and go a little bit deeper into this. I've also got Butterflyer and Enchanta Swan. This is called Sea Harp because don't you worry there, my honey, you might not have any money. Now, I'm not saying that Ingrid Michaelson got her inspiration for her ukulele banger You and I from Enchanta Swan, but I'm also not saying it. She's never confirmed or denied it in an interview, that's all I'm saying. And the last thing we are going to cover in part 2 is playsets. Now, I don't have a Crystal Castle, unless that changes before we film part 2. You're only going to see Crystal Falls, but I actually have 2 Crystal Falls. I got one that was complete in the box, has all the accessories, is in good condition. So we are actually going to unbox that, take it all out. It was opened, it had been taken out, but it had all of the pieces. So we're going to take that out and look at it. Then I got another one that was in the box but had been opened. Didn't have nearly as many of the accessories. A lot of the little pieces were missing, but I found it for a really good deal. And because I have it, I'm going to talk about a little customization process. You'll notice that in some of my recent toy videos, I've been talking about the fact that I kind of want to play around and do some customization. And I've got something really fun planned for the second Crystal Falls. So definitely be on the lookout for part 2 to find out what it is that I'm cooking up. All right, and that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I love and appreciate all of you. Please leave your comments down below. What do you think of my She-Ra collection? I know, it's not as impressive as my Golden Girl collection. It doesn't need near as much. I was able to stretch it into 2 videos, but it's not nearly as impressive as the Golden Girl collection. So I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and show off what we have in the collection and talk about it and talk about some of the history. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments down below. While you're doing that, don't forget to give me that thumbs up to tell me that you appreciated the video. Or if you think that I am a collecting monster, if you are like, why do you keep buying all this plastic junk? Why are you bringing this into your life? It should go in a landfill where it belongs, Greta Thunberg. I'm at least keeping it out of the landfill, but if you're mad at me, go ahead and give me that thumbs down. It is all engagement. The algorithm isn't a picky bitch, and neither am I. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And I would love it if you would hit that bell icon so you'll be notified every time I do an upload. I try really hard to have at least 1 video or live per week, and sometimes, if you're lucky, if you're very lucky, you might even get a bonus video. Ooh, Natasha-tastic. If you'd like to chat, banter, or commiserate between uploads, all of my social media will be linked down in the description box below, including a link to my website, The World of Champagne, at JanessaJ.com. Thank you so much for watching. I love and appreciate all of you. I love collecting all these little plastic creatures. I think they're so fun. I hope you're enjoying this series. I've been having so much fun bringing it to you. And until I see you again, bye. And then we're going to look at the 9 dolls. No, is it 9 dolls? Yeah. Then we're going to go ahead and look at the 9 dolls that I have. And then we're going to go ahead and look at the 9 figures.
And go against what you say. All action figures are dolls, but not all dolls are action figures. I think of action figures as a subcategory of dolls.
Oh. So even little 3.5-inch G.I. Joes you think are dolls?
I consider them a form of doll, yeah.
Interesting.
So Barbies are fashion dolls.
Fashion dolls.
And you have your action figure dolls. Yeah.
Interesting.
Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I smell what you're stepping in.
Good. Doll shit.
Fuck ass Bob. Pick a blue. This one with these pigtails, she looks like PJ Souls from Halloween. Pretty girl.
But wasn't she the one you've been looking for? Or
Yeah.
who is it? So you finally got... What did you pay for her? Girl, what'd you pay for her? Woof! So I'm gonna stomp on it! Okay.
But that's the one that I normally see her for like $1,500.
Yeah.
So I was like... And I'd gotten, like, I had
Girl.
dead dad money, so I was like...
You
I'm
treat
gonna
yourself. Okay, yeah, I don't know if I ever heard about you actually finding her.
I think we did talk about it one time.
Shut your face hole.
I do remember you coming over one time to the
And
office
say
and
the
I
same
showed you.
thing. Whatever.
Baby, because yellow and blue makes green.
Gay.
Gay. I'm very excited for when I get to editing and I'm going to have 50,000 yawns to be able to point out.
And I am sorry, yeah. That's what it is.
But I loved what they did with Peekaboo. They did kind of this non-binary... No, they didn't.
Gay.
Gay. And then the last figure that I have taken out of the package... What are we at for time?
We're at 9 minutes.
Oh, okay. Pretty girl.
I know.
The hair is encroaching on my face.
Oh no, not the hair.
Horse stink.
Horse dink.
Did you go back and watch that?
No, what was that? When were we talking
Oh,
about
we were
that?
talking about it because it was in the perfume video that I did.
Oh.
I said horse stink and you said horse dink.
I remember that something was said. I couldn't remember where it was established.
Yeah, it looks like it. Because normally what they would do is they would always sculpt the upper part of the torso in the skin color and then paint on the bodice.
Mm-hmm.
She's the only one that has a painted neckline.
Oh,
Because they actually
need
did
to
the
have
foil
that.
and then they painted the...
So if that neckline went away, would there be foiling under it?
I think so.
Ooh.
Yeah, so she actually has a painted neck. The
Beyond
more you know... And
fancy.
stars.
We're blinking again.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
The more you know... And shooting star. I might use some of that.
I figured when you repeated it,
Yeah.
you were like, I'm great.
I had to
at
repeat
using
it because someone wouldn't stop talking!
I'm gonna talk to you whether you like it or not. Smash her to the ground.
Well, and at some point I was like, should I keep her in the package? At some point I was like, I may open her.
I know.
Just
you
to
like
kind
to
of-
spend a lot of money on stuff that will make other people angry. That you
Yep,
open.
yep.
Make sure you record it
If I do, I will absolutely record it.
so you can get some hate. Did you get any hate for your castle?
Mm-mm. No. Everybody was so excited because they were like, we never see this in the wild. We never see all the accessories.
Okay.
And so anybody, like, there were no collectors that had to be like, why would you do that?
Okay.
Ooh. Crystal Falls horrific. If you'd like to chat, banter, or commiserate, no, I don't have Crystal Falls in this video.